All right, let's get into the interview now. The Public Service Commission, or the PSC, yesterday released its first quarter report known as the Pulse of the Public Service on Governance Matters in the Public Service. So the focus of this report is on 4 areas, namely ethical leadership, non-payment of government suppliers, the overall number of complaints and grievances that were handled by the Commission from April to June this year, and the management of financial disclosure framework. Among other findings, the Commission found that South Africa continues to be plagued by a lack of ethical leadership, public sector patronage, cronyism, abuse of power by those in positions of authority, widespread corruption, and unprofessionalism in public service. The Commissioner of the Public Service Commission, Michael Seloane, joins us now to talk about this. Commissioner, great to have you. Thanks very much for being with us.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners.
Sure. Doesn't paint a very rosy picture, does it, of the public service at this point in time? But before we get into that, let's just ask up front, what powers does the PSC actually have besides reporting and making recommendations?
Yeah, the Public Service Commission's mandate is to promote constitutional values and principles. And some of those principles is about the use of resources in an economic, efficient, and effective manner. And then one of the values is about the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. And then another one is about transparency, it's about public participation. So that's what we promote as a Public Service Commission. And then we do evaluation of performance of the public service against this values and principles. And then we do investigation of complaints and grievances to ensure that the public service is a conducive environment for good quality service delivery.
Well, you know, a lot of people would...
All our work, we do recommend, we do advise the public service, and then only on exceptional circumstances like human resources, recruitment and selection, do we give directions that either if the appointment was not regular, that it must be regularized by going to court and then reversing that appointment, then so that it can be done properly. So that's the only place where we can do directions which are almost binding on the executive authorities.
Okay.
But the recommendation...
Yeah, a lot of the time people ask, you know, what is the purpose of these actual reports and what good do they actually serve? Because when you look at the country, it truly is engulfed in malfeasance and there's just no consequence management and no sanctions for wrongdoing. And that is very worrying when so much money and time is spent on these reports.
Yeah, through our work of the Public Service Commission, we facilitated that the code of conduct of public servants be adopted. We also facilitated that the law of barring officials from conducting business with the state is implemented. And then we also, through our financial disclosure framework, facilitated that all officials must disclose their interests, and there must be lifestyle audits. So through the interventions, these recommendations are going a long way in making sure that the executive and parliament are implementing them as laws and policies that should be done.
Now, many of the things that you mentioned, such as tenders that are not given on merit, but are rather given to people close to those in control of processes, and public servants who conduct business with the state. That's a big issue that's brought up. And the last Minister of Public Service and Administration couldn't resolve this, despite it being an offence, other than reporting on it. What are the chances of your institution winning this war if the government and executive are not actually acting on these ills, which we all know is happening?
You know, over the past 2 or 3 weeks, you have seen that Special Investigation Unit is arresting a number of officials and companies which are involved in this malfeasance. And then as we promote these values on one side, and the police are acting and arresting these officials and taking them through the court processes so that ultimately they are being found guilty, and freezing their assets so as to show that crime doesn't pay. So all these issues are working together. So it's going to be a struggle. It's not going to be an easy thing to ensure that good norms and values are abided by. So, but that is the work that we need to do. And also that we have to undermine the work that criminals are trying to do of silencing witnesses and whistleblowers, so that the police arrest them and then they are sentenced to jail. So that sends a signal to all those who want to do wrong things that they shouldn't do that. They must think twice before they do commit any malfeasance.
Yeah. Does the Commission actually, well, as a Chapter 10 institution of the Constitution, actually work independently of the Department of Public Service and Administration, kind of like the Public Protector's Office, for example?
Yeah, the Commission is an independent constitutional institution. Of course, the Department of Public Service and Administration and the Commission, there's a lot in common that we are doing. So we are an external evaluator and they are an internal evaluator. So that's why our work most is about advising, recommending measures that should tighten the systems in place. So we work very closely. We are not an entity of DPSA, but we are independent of DPSA. But through our work, we work collaboratively.
Yesterday, I mean, you mentioned the public sector patronage, cronyism, abuse of power, unprofessional behavior. It would be interesting to know what was your institution's view on the special request for the appointment of a chief of staff with only matric in Minister Pravin Gordhan's office, which was granted permission for by the previous Minister of Public Service Administration, Senzo Mchunu.
Yeah, the Public Service Commission, together with Ministry of Public Service and Administration and the entities such as the National School of Government, we are involved in a project to ensure that we professionalize the public service. And then professionalization is not only in the public office, but also in the ministerial offices, what we call private offices, so that the people who are employed meet the necessary requirements to be in the job. And if the job requires that a junior degree is needed, we need to make sure that it is done that way. Of course, ministerial offices, there is an exception on how people have to be appointed in those offices. And those exceptions, we as a Public Service Commission, we want them to be put into the public service as a whole, so that what happens in the public service also happens in the private offices, so that the requirements are the same everywhere.
It just seems to take so long, and that's the reality. It is almost as if we keep talking about what we should be doing and what is going to happen, but it doesn't happen. I mean, we look at something like on Wednesday, the Auditor General. I mean, it seemed to be almost in pain with frustration over government entities that seem to undermine the law with no sanction. In your view, as one of the people who is tasked with the burdensome responsibility of reporting on these deeds, how do you advise that this problem be corrected?
The problem can only be corrected when there are consequences for wrongdoing, meaning that executive authorities, ministers and MECs have to act against wrongdoing, and then senior officials, heads of departments, chief directors, deputy directors general, act against officials. And if they don't, then Parliament should come in and hold them accountable, so that you don't become a minister if ever you allow wrongdoing. So there must be collaboration between Public Service Commission, Auditor General, Parliament, and the executive to ensure that we tighten the systems, so that anyone who is not implementing what he or she is supposed to is held accountable. And then those that commit criminal offenses, the police should act. The Hawks, the South African Police Service should be able to intervene and act against those ones. No other shortcut that can be happening. So when people are trying to undermine the system, we should all, including society, to come in and hold such people accountable. Even the media plays a much bigger role by showing and indicating all these wrongdoings so that the whole of society, in a collaborative way, tighten measures and ensure that the public service deliver good quality services.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at the breakdown, more than 50% of the provinces, I mean, this is the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, the Free State, the Northwest, the Northern Cape, they basically top the list of those who do not pay suppliers. You know, it's said for the government that needs entrepreneurs as it is struggling economically, a government that claims to support small businesses but actually goes and bankrupts them due to lack of payment. What is the reason? Because these are public funds and only take someone to just put the payment through.
Yeah, with respect to the 30-day payment, the Commission is engaging with national and provincial government departments and provincial and national and provincial government components to ensure that they pay the services on time. And then we have issued a call to all service providers that if ever they have not been paid within the stipulated period, they must come to the Commission, and then we will assist them in ensuring that they are being paid. Several of those officials have already been assisted in Gauteng and in other provinces. And if you check the pulse of about 1.5 years ago when we started, there were more than 20 departments who were delinquent as far as paying service providers on time. And then as our engagement happened with those departments, we reduced the number of departments to about 12 at national level. And then also the number of invoices have moved from thousands to now simply a couple of hundreds. So we want to ensure that in about a year or two, that those invoices are reduced to almost zero. Okay. So that those reasons like wrong invoices, whatever, they are minimized at all, and that when service providers have provided the service, they are paid on time.
All right, because that was one of the questions I want to ask you, is that if you are seeing an improvement in this in terms of payment, which it seems that you are. But just very quickly, I need to get one or two more questions in. The lifestyle audit, this is a big one. Has the framework that deals with lifestyle audits been implemented since it became compulsory for national and provincial departments? This was from this year, April, and how many have actually been audited?
Yeah, it has just, we have facilitated that this framework should apply to all public servants. So it's just recently became institutionalized. So as the Commission, on quarterly basis, we are going to monitor, to check how it is being implemented, and where there are gaps of implementation, raise those gaps so that they must be dealt with urgently. What we are trying to do is to be an institution that shows early warning signals so that we don't have to wait for a year or two to raise the gaps. So every 3 months, we will be looking at what is happening as far as implementation of that framework, and then we'll report accordingly. As far as that.
Just because, I mean, this report for the quarter that started in April and ended in June, that's what it was. But when you were asked yesterday, you said you have not monitored how many public officials have been subjected to lifestyle audits. But it's now September, and you are reporting on a quarter that ended in June. Perhaps you can give us clarity there.
Yeah, we are on quarter 2 at the moment. So quarter 1 is from 1 April to June. End of June. And then quarter 2, as we are doing our work as the Commission, we are going to check what has happened in quarter 1, whether there were officials that were subjected to a lifestyle audit, and we'll report in the pulse of the second quarter.
Okay, a bit confusing, but we'll leave it there and we'll wait to hear on that report. But we thank you for your time. That was the Commissioner of the Public Service Commission, Michael Cerwane, unpacking the Commission's 2021 first quarter report known as Pulse of the Public Service on Governance Matters in the Public Service, and giving us some feedback on it. And as I said in the opening, not such a rosy report that was released yesterday, but of course the details are out there. You're free to read the report. It is in the public, so you'll be able to see what's going on.